in a small village deep within the plains of West Africa, where the wind carried stories and the trees had witnessed generations rise and fall, there lived a boy named Jabari. Jabari was different. He did not speak much. He did not laugh loudly like the other boys. He did not try to impress anyone. He simply watched. Every morning, the village would come alive with noise. Women grinding grain, men sharpening tools, children running through dusty paths. The air was always full of sound, except around Jabari. He would sit beneath the old baobab tree at the edge of the village, observing everything in silence. And because of this, the villagers believed he was weak. They believed he was slow. They believed he was nothing. The other boys mocked him openly.
Look at him.
"Why do you never speak, Jabari?" they would ask. "Are you afraid of your own voice?" They laughed, and Jabari said nothing. He simply watched. He watched how people lied to protect their pride. He watched how people revealed their true selves when they thought no one was paying attention. He watched how fear controlled the decisions of men who pretended to be brave. And most importantly, he listened. He listened to conversations not meant for him. He listened to the tone behind words. He listened to what people did not say. Because Jabari understood something most people never realize. People reveal their truth when they believe no one is watching. Years passed. The boys who mocked Jabari grew into strong young men. They became hunters, warriors, protectors of the village. They walked with pride. They spoke with confidence. They were respected. And Jabari was still silent, still observing, still underestimated. Even the village chief, a powerful man named Chief Adisa, once looked at Jabari with disappointment. One afternoon, as the sun burned high in the sky, Chief Adisa called the young men of the village, including Jabari. He stood before them and said,
"Strength is what protects a village. Strength is what keeps fear away."
"Strength is what keeps fear away." He looked at the warriors with pride. Then he looked at Jabari, and silence protects nothing. The warriors laughed. Jabari did not react. He simply lowered his eyes, not in shame, but in understanding, because Jabari knew something they did not. Strength is visible, but intelligence is invisible, and invisible things are often the most powerful. Seasons passed, and then one night, everything changed. It began with whispers, rumors of strangers seen beyond the river, men who did not belong, men who watched the village from the shadows. At first, the warriors dismissed it. "We are strong," they said. "No one would dare attack us." But Jabari knew better, because he had seen them too. He had seen the strangers observing the village from a distance. He had seen how they moved, quiet, patient, strategic, just like him. He knew what that meant. They were not here by accident. They were waiting, watching, planning. But Jabari said nothing, because he knew no one would listen. Not yet. Days later, the attack came. It happened at night, when the village slept. The strangers moved quickly. They knew exactly where everything was, where the food was stored, where the weapons were kept, where the warriors slept. It was chaos. The warriors fought bravely, but they were unprepared, because strength alone is not enough when facing intelligence. The attackers retreated before dawn, but the damage was done. Food was stolen, weapons were taken. Fear had entered the village. For the first time in generations, the village was vulnerable. The warriors were confused. How did they know so much about us? How did they move so precisely? Chief Adisa had no answer, but Jabari did, because he understood something they did not. The attackers had been observing them, studying them, learning their patterns, the same way he'd spent his entire life observing others. That morning, for the first time in his life, Jabari spoke. They will return. His voice was calm, controlled, certain. The warriors turned toward him. Some laughed, but Chief Adisa did not. He saw something in Jabari's eyes, not fear, not uncertainty, but clarity. Chief Adisa asked, "How do you know?" Jabari replied, "Because they are patient. They are waiting for us to make a mistake." Silence filled the air. The warriors did not understand, but Chief Adisa listened, because wisdom often comes from unexpected places. Jabari continued, "They believe we are predictable. They believe we rely only on strength." He paused, "And they are right." This angered the warriors, but Chief Adisa raised his hand. "Let him speak." Jabari stepped forward. "For years, I have watched this village. I know how people move. I know how they think." He looked at the warriors. "You are strong, but strength makes you confident, and confidence makes you predictable." No one spoke, because deep down, they knew he was right. Jabari proposed a plan, not based on strength, but on observation. He predicted exactly when the attackers would return. He predicted where they would enter. He predicted how they would move, because intelligent people recognize patterns others cannot see. That night, the village waited, not with noise, not with pride, but with silence. They followed Jabari's plan. They hid in places the attackers did not expect. They broke their patterns. They became unpredictable. And when the attackers returned, they were shocked. The hunters became the hunted. The attackers were defeated, not by strength, but by intelligence. When it was over, the village stood in silence. They looked at Jabari differently, not as the quiet boy they once mocked, but as the man who saved them. Chief Adisa approached him. For the first time, he bowed his head. "You saw what we could not see." Jabari replied calmly, "I saw because I listened." From that day forward, no one mocked Jabari again, because they understood the truth. Silence is not weakness. Silence is observation, and observation creates understanding. Most people speak to be heard, but powerful people listen to understand. The loudest person in the room is often the weakest, because they are trying to prove something, but the quiet person is learning everything, watching everything, waiting for the right moment. The light touched everything the same way it always did. The huts, the red earth, the old baobab tree standing like a silent witness. But the people were different. They looked at Jabari like they were seeing him for the first time. Women who used to walk past him without blinking now greeted him before greeting anyone else. Men who once laughed when he passed now nodded like they owed him something. And Jabari did not change. He walked the same way, quiet steps, calm eyes, no pride in his shoulders, no hunger in his chest, like none of it mattered. But something had changed, not outside, inside, because respect is not always love. Sometimes it is just guilt wearing a clean face. And that was when Kato truly entered the story. Kato had always been strong. He walked like the ground belonged to him. Loud voice, heavy hands, fast anger. Before Jabari, when people spoke of strength, they spoke of Kato. Not because he protected the village more than others, but because he looked dangerous. People respect danger faster than wisdom. So when the village began speaking Jabari's name with admiration, Kato did not speak. He watched, and every word of praise for Jabari landed inside him like a stone. He would smile when others spoke, but his eyes never smiled. Kato said one afternoon, watching villagers gather around Jabari. "So now we worship quiet boys." Some men laughed, but it wasn't a joke. It was a wound speaking. Jabari never responded. He never defended himself. Because Jabari never cared about admiration. He cared about survival. He cared about peace. He had always been strong, even as a boy, stronger than boys older than him. But he never used it, because strength attracts violence, and violence attracts chaos. So Jabari stayed quiet. He trained alone, away from eyes, away from pride. He carried his strength like a hidden blade, and hidden power makes insecure men afraid. There was only one person who never treated Jabari differently. Her name was Saina. Saina was calm in a way that made noise feel unnecessary. She didn't chase attention. She didn't compete with other women. She existed peacefully, and somehow that made her the most beautiful of all. She never pitied Jabari. She never worshipped him. She just spoke to him normally, and that meant everything. One evening, as the village celebrated victory, Saina found Jabari beneath the baobab tree. He sat alone, watching nothing, thinking everything. She sat beside him, quiet. "You saved them," she said. Jabari didn't answer immediately. He stared at the ground. "I lost something," he said finally. Saina tilted her head. "What?" Jabari paused. "My quiet." She smiled softly. "You didn't lose it. You just have to protect it now." Jabari laughed. Just once. A small laugh. And it surprised him more than it surprised her. But someone else saw it. Kato. From a distance. Watching. Always watching. Kato's pride could not survive in silence. A few days later, he stepped into the center of the village. Drums were playing, men were boasting, women were laughing, and Kato shouted, "Jabari!" The sound cut through everything. People turned. Jabari turned. Kato stepped forward. "If you are a warrior now, prove it. Fight me." The village went quiet, not shocked, excited, because people love watching pride collide. Jabari did not want this. He never wanted this. But Kato raised his voice again. Or maybe the village was saved by chance. Chance. That word landed heavily, because Jabari had nearly died protecting people who now questioned him. So Jabari stepped forward. Not angry, not eager, just finished running. They handed him a spear. Kato rushed first. Wild, fast, aggressive. Jabari moved like water, effortless, controlled, no wasted energy. In seconds, Kato was on the ground, spear at his throat. The entire village froze. Kato stared at him, and in that moment, Kato understood something he had never allowed himself to believe. Jabari was stronger, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Jabari leaned close and spoke quietly. "I don't like violence, but don't confuse that with fear." Then he stood and walked away. He didn't celebrate. He didn't humiliate Kato. He simply left. And somehow, that hurt Kato more than defeat. That night, a small boy followed Jabari. His name was Timi. He'd been watching everything. "Teach me," Timi said. Jabari looked at him. "Teach you what?" "How to be like you." Jabari studied him. "Being like me is not easy." Timi smiled. "I still want it." Jabari nodded slowly. "Then learn to watch before you act." Timi nodded seriously.